All right, everybody, welcome to the Pal Life podcast. As always, I'm Patrick, and today is going to be a really interesting one. Very excited about this conversation I'm about to have here. We're going to be talking about all the things that were going on about in regards to the body and vibration and understanding how that affects our well-being and also what we put out into the world. But we're going to dive deeper into certain animals and situations and geometry that is found all around us, within us, as well. And that is talking about the hexagon. That's going to be talking about bees. That's going to be talking about what they provide more than just, pollination and honey. So we're going to bring on this guest here, Mr. Derek Condit. What's going on, man?
Hey, Patrick, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So I just want to give everyone who listens to the show, most of them also probably listen to Crow as well, crow777radio.com if you want to go check it out. But that is where I originally found and heard what it is that you do in your story, what it is that you've discovered, or let's just say come to understand through your journey and what it is that you do, as we're going to dive into it right now. But I was so blown away by that. And for the longest time, because I was building my podcast, I was like, I need to talk to this guy. I want to get him on. And so finally, I was able to be like, okay, I think I'm ready to have this conversation because there's so much information that just blows your mind, or as we say, the gravy overload. And yeah, so I want to start off with just giving everybody just a quick, or long breakdown of what it is that you do, what it is that you're going to be talking about here today.
Sure. Well, of course, so I'm kind of known for shungite and shungite beehives. So that's a black rock I'm holding up here for those that are, watching this as well as listening. So that, it's a mineral and it's used in lots of realms, science realms and the metaphysical realms. It has a huge effect on frequencies, and not just frequencies, but other things. And we can get into all of that. But I do use that shungite in various forms to help honeybees because I'm what's called a treatment-free or organic beekeeper. I'm not a big fan of chemicals of any kind. We're energy beings, not chemical beings. So we don't need a bunch of chemicals on us or the bees. And there's other ways of doing that. So that's what kind of got me into it. I'm also, and I just use my terms loosely here, but the one that best fits is unintuitive. And technically we all are, of course. We can all use our gut instincts, but I do use that, and that's what helped me kind of figure out what to do with the shungite and how to use it with the beehives. And that's long and short of it.
So let's, if we can, just dive right in because I love this stuff. So we're looking at this shungite. So let's just start. What is shungite? What is it that, for those who don't know, what are we looking at? And then we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. So it's basically it's a mineral, is what it is, and it's found in Karelia, Russia. So that's the one location where shungite is found. And I don't think it's called a province, but basically their version of a province is Shunga, hence the name, and it comes from that. But it's a black carbon-based mineral. So it looks like just like similar to a piece of coal, a lot denser. The properties are different, but it's a black rock in essence. But it does have some unique properties to it. And as you had mentioned, the hexagon shape early on, and that is part of what kind of does the whole magic behind the shungite, and it's all science as well, is that, and actually I have a demo right here of a C60 molecule. So it's a buckyball, a fullerene, a soccer ball shape. But that's the molecular shape that can be found in shungite, depending on the form of shungite to different degrees, and it can be used. So it's being mined in Russia, has been for hundreds of years. It was even put in the water of the soldiers, again, a couple hundred years ago. And then it basically, it's called different things in different understandings, but structured water or living water, shungite water, if we talk about shungite, but it has an effect on the molecular structure of the water. So I like the word living water.
Mm-hmm.
So it does have an effect on that too. And again, it's not random from at least my perspective, being an organic or treatment-free beekeeper. And I'll kind of back up a little bit because, of course, bees put their honey in a hexagon-shaped honey cell in their honeycomb. That's not random. They've been around here for a long time. They kind of know what they're doing with the shapes. So that is also one of the shapes that make up, again, that molecular structure. So it's a strong energy shape or energy container, I like to call it as well. So that's, and the bees know that because of course they're energy beings. They pick up on they perceive the energies and frequencies in our environment. They're much more sensitive than most of us usually. So they realize when I put shungite around them on their beehives, and I think it was 2016 I started this. And I'm not a bee trainer. I didn't train the bees to go perform on video, and I actually caught it all in video. Somewhere around 90 something percent of the bees walked over to the little black rocks called shungite at the time at the entrance to the hive and just started earthing or grounding themselves, and it continued
Hmm.
from there. And we can get more into that.
Yeah,
But in
yeah, yeah.
answer to your question, yeah, it's just that it's a mineral from Russia. And I will add on, it has been found similar minerals in other locations, but different percentages of C60 molecules and sometimes none. And it goes by different names. So I'm a pretty firm believer in using the stuff from the source, and that's the stuff from Karelia, Russia.
Interesting. And so, yeah, I mean, because there's all the directions I'm ready to go and take it there, but to keep, because I'll jump around. If anyone listens to my show, they know I'm all over the place. So I'm working on staying on a path here. But as you were saying that it's made of this C60 structure, fullerene soccer ball, as we see in the background, and obviously we talk about bees providing or making their honey within these honeycombs that are the same hexagonal shape, and it's found in all walks of life, in all different forms of learning, higher educations, etc. But as we do talk in a lot of the podcasts like Crow and things talking about sacred geometry, cymatics, what's happening with this hexagonal shape? What is the importance of that? If we can, is there like a certain frequency property that you can share with us? What is it about that hexagonal shape that is so powerful?
And there's lots of ways of describing that, of course. So I come at it because I am an intuitive. I work with energies. I can perceive energies. I like to term it as well.
Mhm.
So I have some visuals I get to see. So from my perspective, and a lot of the science-oriented people, so they'll call it orgone. I was kind of get they call it orgone energy. But I'll say even that when I perceive or even see someone's aura or biofield, it's not just one air quotes here energy. There's a lot
Mhm.
going on. So it's a constant flow. So then it's a little difficult to talk about, but I'll try. It moves what I'll call it the biocompatible energy around us, the good stuff, the energy that doesn't feel like stress, anxiety, and depression. And those are frequencies, of course. Um,
Mhm.
that is just the way the energy around you is reverberating. You can say again, lots of ways of talking about this, but the hexagon shape, and that's why the bees using the honeycomb, like we were saying, it moves that energy. And again, I don't have the words for it, and I'm not a scientist or doctor, but I'll say it's more biocompatible. So being a beekeeper, I get to hold up a frame of honey cells, and I get to perceive the honey and the bees and the energy moving around it. It's very cohesive, flows smoothly, and regenerates. And that's what healthy people's biofields or auras do as well. And then you can always see fluctuations in that. But when I perceive the honeycomb in the hexagon shape, I can see the energy moving smoothly. And it does the same thing when someone holds a piece of shungite. It removes those frequencies that, again, we sometimes call stress, anxiety, and depression. Sometimes we're taught to own that stuff. And we say, we're depressed, we're anxious, or,
Mhm.
oh, it's not that. We shouldn't own that. I know it's a play of words, but that matters because our intention matters. That's a frequency too. Of course, you know that. And there's been countless scientific studies showing that, and it can be described in 100 different ways. But our imagination and emotions, and I'm ringing my ears right now just saying that, by the way, tinnitus like symptoms. When I start talking the woo woo
Mm.
stuff, and everybody can do this,
Oh, totally.
change. Yeah, I've got crystals here right off camera that the color gets pulled out of them. I
Yeah.
can't explain that completely. So all kinds of crazy stuff happens.
Yep.
But it is when I perceive again, I just tie it together. I can see people using their imagination, and usually we're taught, well, that's fake. Imagination is not fake, of course.
No.
Yeah, but of course, you know that, and your listeners. But a lot of people have taught it's fake, and your emotions control. Those are what affects the metaphysical reality. We're 10% physical, about, and that's not even real anyway. And then the other 90% is metaphysical, we can loosely say. And you don't grab a physical thing to affect that metaphysical reality. It's your imagination and emotions. We don't call it manifesting. Um, but we just all really need to remember this, because I'm not telling anybody anything they didn't know. Maybe I'm reminding people or wording it differently, but we all know these things. And that same energy flows organically or cohesively, I like the word cohesive, around the buckyball or the hexagon shape. So what I'm saying is, if we want to even affect ourselves, now we're going to go deep woo-woo here for a little
Let's
bit.
do it.
Yeah. That, remember, 90% of us, we were just talking about, is metaphysical. It's energy, your aura, your biofield, call it what you want. And how you affect that is with your imagination and emotion. So if you imagine yourself literally in that soccer ball shape, and I just say fill it with love, it's your intention. So it's not a set recipe that you have to follow or a set spiel of words. It's really your intention behind it. So
Mm-hmm.
people vary, but knowing that energy container, and it's a metaphysical one, well, then you can really have a big effect on yourself. And that's what the bees do too. And that's why the honey stays, well, it never expires. As long as it's organic, it lasts forever. Uh,
Right.
yeah. And actually, a human can eat a tablespoon a day and get everything they need to survive. You don't need to drink water either. Honey is the
Yeah.
one substance. Yeah. And you probably know all these things. But because of that shape, that's an important part of it, the hexagon shape. And then when you just extrapolate that out and you start getting into the C60s or C8, there's other carbon molecule shapes, but they're energy containers. So they're a good way for us to affect our reality. So I know that was kind of a lot there, and it's hard to tie it all together sometimes, but yeah, the bees know what they're doing on the shape.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a lot, but like you said, when you can take yourself out of any preconceived notions you have of this place we call Earth, home, reality, and actually can pull back for a minute and hear what's being said. This is why I love what you're talking about, because it is such a direct one-to-one correlation and parallel with what I do with my personal training world. And that's what I was saying, working with Dr. Tom Cowan over at the New Biology Clinic, is there is this ability to have adjust what frequencies not only that we let in, but the actual vibration that we then put out there, right? And as you said, it is talking about intention. It is talking about what it is then we do with that intention, how we perceive, then how we act on it, the people we surround ourselves with, all these things that as you said, we're told these to some degree or another, but we're just taking it a little step further. Like you always hear growing up, like, hey, surround yourself with good people, surround yourself with people who aren't going to, aren't troublemakers, or, be grateful for this meal. Always sit down and have, say grace or whatever for those who did do that. And you see how much that puts out then into the world, how you perceive the world. Like, as I always say to clients, like, you could be eating, junk food, but if it's coming like from grandma's homemade cooking and there's like that love intention behind it, it's going to have such a different impact than if it's, a really healthy salad from a store that, nobody really cared. They're just trying to make their, pay their rent, or, whatever the case is. So there is that deeper level of connection in, I'm ranting here too, but the fun thing and exciting thing that for me is when you start talking about the bees, and when you understand that, they intuitively have that. And then it's a matter of then asking the question I had is going, is there other things in that hexagonal shape or in our environments that we are connected to, that we just don't realize, that we're kind of like, oh wow, that is also another uh you know sacred geometrical pattern that I'm finding myself wanting to be closer to. Like, as you see bees get attracted to the shungite, what other things, if there are those geometrical patterns, if I'm making sense here, that we can find that hexagonal shape in other places? Is it anywhere else, is the question, I guess.
It would be, but even that, so not just the hexagon. And I think you mentioned it was, so use the term sacred geometry, and
Mhm,
realms are called it platonic solids, and different names for these shapes. So there are a lot of, and they're containers, they're energy containers. And I
mhm.
don't mean just physically, of course, because nobody has to grab a C60 molecule. Good luck on that. And I know they're doing that in different science realms with different things, but us, so then if we look at them, we use them metaphysically, and we have them around in the form of shungite or shungite powder, and I've got some here in other ways. There are additional shapes, the Merkabas, the pyramids, and they go on and on. They explode out from there. So it's not just a hexagon thing, but so the hexagon, well, the biggest thing, I got one right here actually, would be, and I don't know how much of this is going to even come on the video anyway,
Yeah, we could
it's a
see it.
crystal. Okay, so long story short, I mean, people know that some crystals, depending on the environment they're grown in, they'll form a hexagon shape, and some will be a pentagon, some will be five-sided, and they'll go on from there. But it's a and again, it's a hard thing to talk about, but it's a cohesive, a calm environment is when the crystals grow in that. It's like it's a
Mm,
natural state. Again,
interesting.
there's lots of types of crystals. They grow in different forms. I'm being really vague here because
Hmm.
that could explode on this, an hour, another conversation. Um,
Right, right.
but I'm just trying to say that the hexagon's not the only shape, but it is one of the better ones. And then again, it extrapolates out because even the buckyball, the soccer ball shape, of course, the fullerene, that's in shungite has little pentagons on it. So it's actually hexagons and pentagons,
Interesting.
both. And that's, you have to start getting into that geometry as you start turning it into well, more than three-dimensional, because actually I would jump in and tell you it's fifth density, not even dimensions, a
Hmm.
fifth density energy container, that those that are perceiving, aware of the metaphysical, and it's no superpowers, it's just an understanding, can have more of an effect on it. And that's something I've just kind of stumbled into, and what I do around here in my place. I have a wide background in different things, but
Right. So with that, being that this like fifth, what is it? What did you say? The fifth density?
I'd say fifth density because it's nowhere you have to go. It's all here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and within that, right, is that in some capacity, where it gets, because you let me backtrack. When you're dealing with rocks, right, and you're dealing with crystals, if ever a lot of people think it's woo woo, it's the devil and things like that. Obviously, let's start there. Clearly there's a reason they in these modern, or I guess ancient religious sects of what we call I guess main religions or whatever, they're always saying like, hey, don't do that because it's so evil, and then if you talk about it, you're bad. I'm assuming from your point of view, but I'll let you explain, that it's clearly in many ways trying to keep many of us understanding this relationship with the rocks and crystals, the energy, like you said. It's not just the hexagon, but these sacred geometrical patterns that store the energy. Would that be fair to assume that there's some sort of that malevolence happening, or whatever we want to call it, to keep us from understanding our relationship with that energy?
Oh, absolutely. I don't doubt that for a second. I have a ex-military background myself, so I dabbled in that for several years. I have a lot of my background. I won't get all that now, but I absolutely saw that, and I actually came into all of this from the mindset or pre-programming of it's all BS, it's not real. Oh, did I find out differently when I started going, because I'm so open-minded and
Right.
to do it. I'm like, oh shit. Sorry.
Yeah. No, no, no,
But
you're
I'm
good.
like, okay. I'm like, oh my God, this, and then I'm just that personality type that, well, then if that's that, then this, and I just continued it on from there, and it unraveled. And my mom, so as far as family goes, so I like these called these understandings. Some people call them abilities, a psychic thing. I like to call it remote perceiving because I can remote view. I don't just remote view. What fun is that? You want to perceive, you want to feel stuff, smell stuff sometimes. So I just perceive, because that keeps us out of like, packaging it or limiting ourselves.
Mhm.
So back in the 70s, I was born 1970, and as I was growing up in my family, there's my mom, she's passed on now, but at the time they say ask Doris, because and we didn't know the word psychic. That wasn't, I mean, I'm sure it was out, but it wasn't in our
Mhm.
understanding. Just they knew to ask her this, that, and the other, and she didn't know. So it went like that, and then I started remembering these things later because it was normal for me. And she didn't hang some sign up doing crystal ball readings or anything like that. She had normal 9 to 5 jobs, but was intuitive, had good gut instinct. Stuff came to her. Quick example, right? We were driving down the freeway in a little VW bug. She heard a voice in her head, said, better change lanes. And then all of a sudden, there's a semi truck ahead of us with just big concrete sewer sections, broke loose, rolled off. You see the whole deal I'm getting at here.
Right.
Crushed us kind of thing if she didn't listen to that little voice in her head. At some
Mhm.
point, you just can't say that's random.
Of course.
Again, I got older. Again, I'll say I have a lot of the military stories because there's a lot of those, but it did have me question things. And then I went at it going, well, wait a minute, I'm perceiving too much here that I'm hearing on TV is fake. But I'll just say strong willed of a person. I'm going to try it. I'm going to experience it, and then unraveled from there. So the whole psychic thing unraveled really fast for me. And then I went out from there on other understandings, because as I started becoming vision, in some societies they call people like me seers or things like that. Again, I don't like
Hmm.
some of the terms we're given in any of this, but I have to work with some of them. But I can perceive frequencies or energies, kind of how I like to put it. So I can see auras, I can see other things. It depends on where my focus is. But what I learned from that was, and that wasn't always as heightened as it is now, as I got out of my own way and expanded my understanding of the metaphysical, that what we call woo-woo stuff to have fun with amplified hundreds of percent. And it
Hmm.
wasn't a secret chakra pose or yoga, this, that. And I'm not just in these things. I'm just saying, actually,
Right,
well,
right.
love them all. But it was an understanding that actually did it for me, not climbing a mountaintop, so things like that. And me stepping away from, there's no gurus or masters out there. And I've actually met some of those individuals that do have those titles, have a billion something followers, actually. Wasn't impressed.
Yeah.
So I saw that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, no, no. Our gurus and masters are in us. They're
Yep.
ourselves, our heart chakra. Because of course we don't drive this vehicle around from this cholesterol sac we call a brain. We're in the heart chakra. And I can see things like that. So, and that's why I got to figure it all out, because I don't have a psychic manual, if there even is one. Wouldn't know. No, I just kind of go at it. It's like getting in the kitchen and cooking. Figure it out. Don't get pre-programmed. Be open to it, but hang on for the ride if you do, because that's how I went at it and just started amplifying from there. Like right now, as I'm moving, for those again that get to see video, I move my hands, and it's just ringing the heck out of my ears and hear all kinds of, and I can't explain it from the science perspective because I don't.
Right.
It's a thing though, and I do lots of things here in the store, Mystical Wares, and people walking in, and again, not just me,
Hmm.
because all heightened, it is all of us, and that's a big thing that I like to put out there. You know, our chakras are like our metaphysical senses. We say we have five senses. That's for the physical, 10%. That's the boring part. Yeah, the energy, and that's our and we have more chakras than they'll tell you about anyway. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, because again,
Yeah.
getting cheating, I can actually look off over here, and here physically, there's just a wall. My sight turns on over here, and I get to, and won't get in unless you want to get into that, but I
Dude,
can.
that's I'm following your lead, dude. This is awesome.
I mean, I see people. They saw. Remember, I have no background. I have no religious upbringing on anything. So blank slate, will just say on any of that, no pre-programming. So all of a sudden, I heard they say you have seven chakras. Well, my sight was already on my metaphysical sight, so I'd perceive people. I can see their chakras. I'm like, well, there's more than that, so I don't know what they're talking about, because
Hmm.
there's seven physical, and maybe this is out there. Again, I don't know. I haven't read the books. And again, no manuals here. They're off your body and they change, and you put some focus somewhere, you can make what they call a chakra, an energy.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's an understanding of that out there,
So
but
can I, sorry, ask a question. So when you've had these interactions or encounters, you're perceiving different different amounts of chakras on certain people. Is that correct? Like you might see someone who's like, oh, I see. Okay, you have some color. You have these chakras here, but you also have these other chakras that are out there compared to
less
somebody.
energy going to them sometimes. So if
Okay.
they're into the metaphysical stuff, then they're and it's their thoughts. Again, it's not a certain whatever. It's not becoming a vegetarian, and I am a vegetarian, but that's not what did it. But it's the thoughts, because I can do sessions here in my office or remotely, makes no difference, and perceive my vision is off to the right. Is why you're going to see me looking over here a lot, because I'm what you're over here as well for me.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, use you as an example. So I get to cheat, as I say. So a little you kind of appears in the 3D over, well, I don't know what D, but
Hmm.
over here for me, and stuff happens. And I get to chat with your spirit guides. Again, I'll be loose with those terms, but that's the one a lot of people don't understand. You're just energy and frequency to me. So I get to see when you're talking about chakras, if I can get somebody to imagine something, certain energies flow up here, and I start to see other chakras get more. I guess it'd be like working out a muscle.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think we all have it. It's just how much attention you put in toward it, and then don't
Yeah,
question, and it gets stronger.
dude. I have this thought, kind of what you're saying, that because you keep saying everyone has it, and I totally agree with you. And I think there is some level of certain people however we think we're coming into this realm, right? What our purpose is, this and that. But I believe to some higher existence, I like to say God or creator, whatever people want to say is they're right. But it's like, in a way, it's going, your soul or whatever this energy that it is, really us that's embodying and animating this vessel that we call, Patrick or Derek. I think it's going, there's this for like prior understanding or awareness that's like, you're going to be someone who can handle this like better at this time than others. Like, and the reason why I say this is, you see a lot of people when you give them information that is, again, outside of what they know, it's too much. They're like, I can't handle that information. Where there's other people like yourself or me, where I'm like, keep going. All right. Okay, I like where he's going with this. I'm very interested. Whether or not, someone fully agrees or not, that's not the point. She's like, I'm willing to listen. Like you said, open-minded. And that goes to, like you said, open-minded. What happens when you use your thoughts, your creativity, you open the mind. And as you said, this flows in, right? And this is why for me it's so exciting because, I don't necessarily have what you have by any means, but I'm very, like, as you can say, is very intuitive as well. Like I'm very much the type of person, and those in my life who is always, it's funny, and I work hard, but they're always like, when Pat says he's going to do something, like, son of a bitch, he always does it. And it's not that I'm like hurting people, I'm not like neglecting people. It's just becomes one of those things where I always tell people, I go, when I have a thought of something that I want to do, or how I want to then act in the world, and my who I am and the person I would like to be, or whatever the case is, I envision it, I see it, and people talk about this all the time, but what I then start to do is I see it and I live it, I experience it. Like you said, my perception of the whole experience is not just the visualizing, it's the, what does that feel like, how does that move through my body, how does that make me feel emotionally, you know what I mean? Am I ready for that journey? Like every film, every story, right? And when that happens and I see it a few times and I go through it, I then always tell myself, those things that I'm gonna do have already happened. I've already lived it. It's already happened. I would then just say, then reality just needs to catch up. And now it's just this reality catching up. And obviously all that experience, all that energy I've let in, and then the hope, at least that's what I'm hoping that I'm doing, because I can't see what you're talking about when I do it, is then am I putting that energy out that creates that? And as things kind of start to happen, and not in like a, I'm doing it selfishly, like I want the world, it's more of like, learning how to let go of problems, or, if I want to start an endeavor of my life, finding a way to reach that, um, you know, bringing in that kindness along the way. Does that make sense? I know I've kind of ranted there, but
Oh no, not at all. It makes total sense, and I'll tell you, some people think, well, I have to get rid of all the crap of life first before I. No, you don't. Just so
no.
no, you don't. Anybody can start right now, and
Hmm.
then I'll also give you another explanation or description. So here, I'm kind of pointing at the couch. When I see something, it doesn't matter if it's, again, remote or not. When I perceive someone, and I figured this out, because again, no psychic manuals that I know about. But I get to see the frequencies or the energies. So I see, I'll describe like this: the channel that I tune into when I pick up on the metaphysical stuff. Well, what I do is the person in front of me, I'll get them to use their imagination.
Hmm.
That's it. They're on the same channel. That is literally it. So we all need to just remember that, and we don't have to find that, because I go 100 miles an hour. Anybody in the store will tell you, all day, every day, just doing all kinds of things, juggling 5 thoughts in my head. I
Hmm.
don't ever find that little quiet spot that I've heard some people say you have to find before you can do this, that, or the other. No, it's not. That's not a. If that works for somebody, fantastic. I'm not dissing it either. You do whatever way works best for you. But I'm a blunt guy, so I like to say, no, you don't have to do whatever this
Hmm.
podcast or book or guru taught you. Do your own thing. Just get in the kitchen and cook. And
Right.
don't worry about burning things. And there's no set recipe for anything. Make up your own as well. And that's why I use the terms like your emotions and imagination. We all have them. Now just forget that others told you they were fake, or you shouldn't listen to them, or they're bad or something like that, depending, and use them, and then you're manifesting. And of course, time's not a thing anyway. So
Right.
what you're talking about, yeah, you were, and I know you're just making a joke about letting, I think, reality catch up or whatnot. Well, there's only the here and now.
Right. Right.
Yeah, tying in your imagination, emotions, you affect the frequencies around you, and it will be like that. And I'll tell you, some of the what people call abilities I have, some we haven't talked about, and again, they're understandings,
Hmm. Hmm.
came on overnight, blew my mind because I thought, nope, you got to practice, you got to do this, that, and the other, buckle down, the whole 3D story thing. Not the case. I literally, and I'll tell everybody, I'll tell everybody how to do it too.
Hmm.
Literally, I just had the thought in my head, talking to myself, I want to be whatever your thing is. And then, yeah, start just like you were saying, start faking it till you make it. Going with the flow. We can word that lots of different ways, but that's the thing. And
Hmm.
then for me, and it can work this way because I have no extra digits or anything else. And we can all just say, have the thought. So I'll say one way to talk about it be, I went from psychic level, let's just say average. This is some way to talk about this would be 1 to 3 or something. I like doubled that overnight. And then there's no linear thing anyway. There's no
Right.
end to end of it. But again, a way of speaking about this. So whatever I was, it doubled literally overnight. And it wasn't because of something I did. It was because of something I thought. And it
Hmm.
happened fast. And that's why I was saying, hold on for the ride, because I didn't know the sight thing was going on. Or all of a sudden I start moving my hands, I'm here squealing, like what just happened? All those subtle energies and weird stuff turning on. I had to figure it out on my own again. But get in again, for an analogy, get in the kitchen and cook. Don't worry about it. Try stuff out,
Hmm.
and then just go with the flow. We mentioned earlier.